what's up, beautiful jellyfish? It's Tracy. I've tried to film this video like 15 times right now. You don't even actually understand. We're gonna be doing a video talking all about drafting, and basically, if you want to get better at drafting, or you just want to see my face, I like my face too. Alright then. First tip I would say if you want to get better at drafting is, when you're drafting or whatever and you get your cards and stuff, a lot of times you can be very blinded by the rare that you get in the pack. If you get like a super awesome rare, it's really expensive, whatever, and you're all just like, oh my gosh, I just drafted and I pulled like a $500 card. There's like no 500 card. That was an awful example. There's like no 500 wow, that was not English. There's no like $500 cards in standard right now. That was a really bad example. But it can be definitely really easy to get blinded by that price tag and be like, well, I just pulled like a really expensive card, so of course I want to take it. But the reality is that card going to benefit your deck? And I'm really not talking about so much like a packed one, pick one, because I think that's actually really cool when you get like a super awesome rare that like defines like a color that you're going to go into. But like, if it's like the third pack and it's like such an off color for you and you're like, there's a much better card in the pack that's going to benefit your deck, it's like, don't just take the rare because of the value. Take the card that's going to be the best for your deck, because if you take that card and you have a better draft deck, it's like, well, then you win and then you get more packs. But then it's like, then if you just get like that one card, then it's like, I don't know. Just don't draft the rare. It's like, don't always draft the rare. Like, there's gonna be instances where you get a rare and it's going to be good and you're going to want to take it. For example, so I went drafting the other night and my pack one pick one was a Jace, and I was like, well, I mean, like, yeah, I'm gonna take the Jace. Because with pack one, pick one, I was like, okay, let's see what colors we're gonna do, and ended up building blue-white. So, yeah, like, don't just, that's a totally different instance in the pack one, pick one, but if you're talking about, like, third pack, it's like, don't just be like, oh, man, gotta get that rare. It's like, don't always do that, especially if there's a card that's gonna be so much better for your deck. It's a totally different story if there's, like, nothing else in the pack for you to take, and you're like, well, I don't really want other people to draft this card. Let me take it, but don't just always draft the rare. Bad idea. Okay, second thing I would say is take your time, and this can be definitely like a thing where you're kind of like, well, I only have X amount of seconds to do this, and I completely understand that. But what I'm really saying here is, when you're drafting, don't be like, you see one card and you're like, oh my gosh, cool, I'm gonna take this card, and like, don't even look at the rest of the cards. Like, when I pulled my Jace, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take the Jace, but I'm gonna look at the other cards still, and like, see what cards are in the rest of the pack. And what this does is that when the pack goes around the table and you get that pack back, it's kind of like, well, what cards am I gonna see back? This is definitely something that, like, if you're just getting into drafting, you're probably not going to, like, be thinking about too much, because memorization-wise, I realistically just can't do something like that right now. But, like, you get a general idea, be like, wow, I wonder what cards are gonna, come back to me and stuff like that. And just to get a general sense of, like, what's in the pack, what are other people going to take, what am I gonna get back to me? So yeah, I would just, like, take your time with it. It's like, I get it, you're under, like, a time constraint, but it's like, use that time, like, as efficiently as you can. Okay, cool. Third thing I'd say is to pick a balance between creatures, removal, and then obviously have, like, enough spots for lands. Realistically, in a draft, you're gonna want to do about, like, 16 to 17 lands, depending on your mana curve. 17, I would say, is, like, the number that you want to do on lands. Like, 17 is just, like, yes, that really nice sweet spot with lands. So I would definitely say 17 is going to be really good for you for lands. Creatures, you want to run about 16 to 18. It totally depends. I am not gonna lie, I'm not the best with drafting creatures because I get really, like, removal happy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I see removal, and I'm like, I need all the removal, and then I, like, forget to draft creatures. Something I totally need to work on. But yeah, like, getting enough creatures is, like, gonna be really important. So doing that, and then basically the rest of your, you have like 5-ish cards or something like that, for like everything else, which is going to be like removal, it's going to be like random pump spells, like things like if your creature +X, something like that. Cool. Fourth thing I would say is don't commit to a color too early or too late. Like, for example, if it's like the third pack, you should probably know you should probably know the colors that you're in. If it's like first pack, you don't want to commit too early and be like, I am going to go mono, whatever. The chances of you going a monocolored deck is probably very slim. You're probably going to be splashing at least one more color. You could potentially even do 3 colors. It just totally depends on your deck. But you want to get a general idea, like around like on your second pack, like halfway through, you're gonna get a very good idea of like what pack you're going through. I'm sorry, what colors you're going to pick. Like for example, when I drafted the Jace, I said to myself, okay, I know that I'm gonna go blue. Like I'm gonna be like, okay, I'm like drafting and I'm like, I'm probably most likely going to be going blue. I don't know what my second color was, and I didn't figure that out until a little bit later on, and that's totally fine. But yeah, okay, okay, fifth thing I would say is, I would say to notice what colors are running very dry in the packs and what colors are very open in the packs. And this is really important, especially when you're going for your second and third color splash, because you are gonna see the pack, and if you get a pack and there are like 5 white cards, you're like, okay, no one is drafting white, I guess I should go into white, which would probably be a good idea. Like if you start to notice that like a couple packs in a row, you're like, wow, I noticed there are a lot of really good white cards. People aren't taking them. Either people are taking white, which chances are someone else is probably taking white, they're just taking the better white cards, but you're like, wow, there's some decent cards in white or something, I should maybe go into that. So definitely pay attention as best as you can to see, wow, what colors are like really available and what colors are just not at all. Especially because if there are colors that are just not open, like you're getting past a pack and there's like no black in it and you've already started to go into black, you should probably not go into black anymore, because the packs are just running dry and you're not going to be getting past good stuff, or you're going to be getting past stuff, but it's going to be like the cards that are just really not good that you don't want to be drafting in that color, black for example. Okay, cool. Sixth thing I would say is definitely to watch your CMC. Like, this is definitely something that is kind of difficult to do when you're drafting, but, you know, the thing is that if you're doing casual type, you know, draft, and actually, no, even if you do, like, more professional, like, type drafting, you're allowed to like look at your cards and stuff, like, you know, at the end of when you open up the packs and stuff like that. And like if you're doing it at a casual place, you can probably just take a look at your cards when you're in the middle of picking a pack. Like, there should be no issues with that. I would just double check with your card store just to make sure like that's okay, but most places are just, you know, it's fine. Like, you could just look at it and see like, oh wow, did I already grab like 10 of the same card or something like that. And you should probably remember if you took 10 of the same card, but like, whatever. And if it's so, that card should totally be lightning bolt. Like, the place that I go to, when the guy like explains drafts to people like who are new, he's all like, you can have as many cards as you want in draft. Like, if you want to take 10 lightning bolts, you can run 10 lightning bolts. Can you imagine a deck like that just like running lightning bolts and like lands? That'd be like super sweet. Okay, anyways, that's not the point. Point is, we're talking about something. Oh yeah, watching your CMC. So yeah, like making sure that like you have enough like smaller stuff, but then also make sure you have enough things that are bombs. This is something that I need to work on. Like, I sometimes don't get like the couple of like bomb creatures that are like, once they hit the board, they're like very difficult to deal with. So making sure, like, don't be like, well, this card is like 6 mana, I can't run it. No, you're gonna want to have a couple of those. You're gonna want to have a couple of cards that are just like, when they hit the table, they just drastically change the board. Okay. Then the 7th thing I would say is, this is just something, let me get magic cards. I just happen to have them, like, laying around. I'm a real magic player, guys. Okay, is when you're drafting, and this is totally something that you don't, like, have to do, but this is something that I found really helpful, is, say this is your pack. You have, the cards, I'll just grab, like, a bunch of random cards. You have your pack, right? This is way more than 15 cards. You have your pack, and you're going through and you're looking at all the cards, and this is not what a pack would look like at all, because these are blue and white cards. This was my draft deck that I drafted on Friday. But anyways, you have your pack, and you're like looking through, right? And you see a card that you really like. Take the card and, like, I don't know if you guys can see this at all, I hope you can. Take the cards that you're thinking of and move them to the front of the pack, and basically I really like doing this because it really helps you visually, so that when you're looking at the pack, you're like, what cards do I like? And then you bring the ones up closer. Totally something I would say though is that once you do that, shuffle the cards afterwards so that people don't think like, oh wow, why are there like 12 blue cards, you know, clumped together? I wonder if the person was considering them in this order. So Yeah, that's just like a thing that I do. But yeah, I would say like putting the cards towards the beginning, I do this all the time just so that I can evaluate and like keep the cards next to me and like see, okay, I'm struck between these 3 cards. I'm thinking probably this one, the one that's closest to my right. So I just think it really helps. It's just something like I would say, you know, you don't have to do, but you know, I like doing it. It helps me out a lot. Alright, eighth thing I would say is, and this is something, whoa, I need to work on, is to do research in the set that you're drafting. Because if you walk into the draft and you're like, well, you know, I know that Chandra's in this set and she's really good, and then like you don't know anything else, like do research and like look into the colors. Don't get like, okay, I'm definitely gonna draft this color. Don't be like that. Just be like, knowing what color, what things are in each of the colors, what cards are going to be good in the draft environment. So I want to show you guys one of the best cards here. It's called Topin Freeblade. This card's really sweet. I drafted it and it's really good. It's a 2/2 Vigilance Renown, basically a 3/3 Vigilance for 2 mana. That's like, I just totally blanked on the mana cost for a second. It's really good. So something like that is like knowing basically like what cards are good in draft, what cards people are saying are good in draft. A lot of cards will look really good and then they're not, they don't play well. So yeah, definitely just being aware of, you know, what cards are in the set that you're playing. Cool. And then the other thing I would say, 9th thing, is just to like watch people draft. I'm a huge fan of this. You become such a better Magic player by watching other people draft. You can literally, you're on YouTube right now, you can go to that search bar and be like, draft, and type in and you can just watch people draft. It's really helpful. I actually love watching people draft. I just think it's really fun. It's just really interesting to see like what people take, and like what, you know, their thought processes, and the commentators are really helpful because they like give you insight on like what, you know, the player's probably thinking and stuff like that. So yeah, watching people draft is just really helpful. If that's not your play style though, if that's not your style, like that doesn't help you, that's totally cool, but it's just something that helps me. And last thing I would say, and this is just kind of a no-brainer, but just practice a lot. You're really, I said this before, you're not going to get better at Magic by like staring at the walls. You gotta go out and do it. You gotta like watch other people, you gotta like do it for yourself, and it's going to be a trial and error process. Like really, it's just, you're not going to be like super good at it when you start. It's kind of like anything else. You're just going to need to practice and you need to get better at it a lot, and just knowing the set and stuff like that and is going to really help you and help you to become a better drafter, which will in turn help you become a better Magic player. Yeah, alright, cool guys, that is it for me. I hope you guys enjoy your day, your nights, and